Okay, so this slide you will all be very familiar with because we bring it out at every opportunity to remind you this is the model for improvement, which is what we're using to frame our improvement work. And it's great to see from the reports that we've had so far and the chats we've had with you that many of you using this, starting to pin down your aim, your answer to your first question, and really thinking about your changes and your measures as well. And another diagram that you will be sick of looking at by the end of this collaborative, but again it's just to remind you where we are in the process. So at this point we are between Learning Session 1 and Learning Session 2, which will happen on the 6th of November. And in a collaborative, this period between learning sessions is what we call an action period, and as the name suggests, this is where you're actively working on your projects, and we know you're all on that just now. So before we move on to talking about the quality improvement tools that we're focusing on today, I thought it would be quite useful just to have a quick review of the tools that we've already talked about so far in the collaborative and used. And actually, when you see them all on one page, it's actually quite a lot that we've got through so far. So you'll see there the model for improvement, which we've mentioned there, and this obviously frames our improvement approach. Project charters, which when you're starting your project, you're laying out what you're doing, and lots of you have made really great progress with these and have sent them in to us. It really helps us to see the background and rationale for the work and why you're doing that project. So if you've not completed that, we would strongly recommend that you complete that as soon as possible, and ideally if you can send it in to us and the team here, it really helps us when we're providing feedback to you. PDSAs, we did a bit of work on them at the last learning session. We did some testing using coin spinning, and again it looks like from the information we've had from you that some of you are starting to think about or test some changes to your processes. So it's just a reminder that if you are thinking about testing or you've started doing some tests, to keep a record of these. Now you have the template for the PDSAs, but it really just helps you to decide on what you do next, and as well as tracking your improvement story. So when you get to the point and you've been working on your project for quite a while, you're starting to see improvements, it's good to have a record of what you tried, what worked, what didn't, so it helps you to understand why you got to that point, and also so that you can share with other teams as to what you tested and how. Measurement plans, so we did a bit of talking about this on our last WebEx, and I know a lot of you are working with your teams at the moment to plan out your measures, what measures you can use to track your progress, and a lot of you again have been linking in with your local data analysts. We've got some of the analysts on the call today, and they can obviously be a great help to help you plan out the best way to collect your data and analyse this. So, you know, if you haven't already linked with your data analyst, and you know, contact them directly or get in touch with us and we can make the connection. We touched a bit on run charts at the last on the last the last WebEx as well, but we'll continue to pick up on that. So if you're not at the point of using run charts yet, don't worry about that. We will come back to that throughout and at the next learning session. And finally, driver diagrams. So we've talked a lot about these at the last learning session. You did quite a big session of starting to produce your own driver diagrams using hundreds of post-its and pieces of paper. So you've all made a start on that. We do think it's a really useful thing to do at this stage of your project, and I know we've given a lot of you feedback on that from your monthly reports, that if you haven't already done a driver diagram, it would really help you to do it at this point, because it really helps you to see what your project theory is. So how does everything fit together? How does your change idea that you have help you to reach your goal? Is it the right thing to focus on for this work? So in our original dates that we've set for you, we've asked for you to send these in to us completed by the end of October, but if you have made progress on that, if you could send them in to us as soon as possible, that would be really helpful for us to help support you with your project. It doesn't need to be high-tech or done on a computer. If you've got a photograph of one you've done with post-its, that will be fine. It just lets us to see what you're working on at the moment. We did actually have one of the team members who have got a great driver diagram who is going to speak to us today and show us how they've developed them. Unfortunately, she's not able to join us, but we'll hopefully share that with you at some point soon. So on there, just as a small mini bubble beside the driver diagrams, we also have listed a change package, and this is really a set of change ideas linked with your driver diagram that you can use, and we'll show you an example of those just shortly. Okay, now the next two slides, they're very busy. I'm not expecting you to read these at the moment. It's just to show you that we have high-level programme driver diagrams that we have shared with you previously. We will share them with you again. So this is the access workstream driver diagram, and this one is the neurodevelopmental assessment pathway that have been worked on from input from yourselves over the last couple of years, really. Some of you have been working with us. So we would encourage you to look at these. Although they are high level, it might give you some ideas for your own local driver diagrams. Okay, and change packages. So we have also change packages linked to the programme level driver diagrams. So this is just an example. This is one page out of the Access Workstream change package, and again, you don't need to read this just now. We'll send this on to you, the full thing. But basically what we have there are some change ideas linked to the drivers in the driver diagram, and these ideas have come from a variety of sources. So we have used change ideas that have been tried out by teams within NHS Scotland boards that have been successful, work that's been done in the East London Foundation Trust. There are documents from the IAPT programme in England, and again, we've put all these together to give you, again, a start with some change ideas that you might want to consider in your own programmes if you're needing support with that. Okay, so the main part of the WebEx today was to look at these improvement tools. We are focusing on 4. I mean, there are lots of improvement tools that can help with your project, including the ones we've already covered, and there are lots more than these 4 as well. We are going to send you out an improvement toolkit, or 2 improvement toolkits actually linked to work that's already been done, which includes these tools and lots of others. But we just thought we'd focus on these ones because, again, based on some of the feedback we've had from you about your projects, these are the ones that we think will probably help you most at this point in your improvement work. So, first one is Pareto chart. And we thought today it would be quite useful for us to know your experience of using these tools. Some of you may not have worked with them at all, so we were just going to ask you for a little bit of interaction here, just to tick in the box. So in the upcoming slide, we'll have a chart on there of different levels of knowledge of the tool. And what you need to do, as you can see in the diagram there, so if you can start and go onto the pencil icon on the top left to open up the toolbar, move down to the arrow button and then click arrow pointer. Okay, so once you've done that, we have a chart here, and again the instructions are still on the side how to get the arrow pointer. So we have 4 segments of this pie here, and on the top left I have never heard of a Pareto chart. Top right, you've used it once and you've got a basic understanding. Bottom left, you know how to use it and you know what its benefits are. And bottom right, you could use it, you could teach it to others. You've used it lots, and you could actually come on here and do this section for me. So if you could just use your arrow pointer, please, and just tick in the box where suits your level of experience. Right, so someone's saying their pencil icon is greyed out.
All right.
Yeah, I think others are finding the same problem. If you just hold with us just now and we'll try and get that sorted. Yep, some of you are starting to, I know a few people were greyed out. Right, okay, Olivia's just furiously working on the technology at this end, and hopefully we'll get you ticking just shortly. Okay, and Simon, you're telling us you'd be up somewhere between top left and top right. That's great.
How's that now?
Okay, if you were greyed out before, can you have a go now, see if it's working for you? Yep, great.
Great.
Great, okay, brilliant.
Oh.
All right, so quite a few of you that have not heard of a Pareto or have used it before or have got some basic understanding. That's great. So as I say, we're not going to go through it in massive detail today, but hopefully from what you see, it's not a hugely complicated tool, but it can be really helpful in improvement projects. And the other thing to remember is that data analysts have got a lot of experience of using these, so your data analyst can help you with this, but you can do it with pen and paper. So, okay, right, I'm just going to move on now.
I've got the ball, so I'll just...
Sorry, just all this high-tech stuff going on in the background. Okay, here we are, the Pareto principle. So this Pareto charts are based on the Pareto principle, which is also known as the 80-20 rule, which some of you may have heard of. So what that means is that in any group of factors that contribute to an overall effect, roughly 80% of the effects comes from 20% of the causes. Now, don't worry too much about the numbers. Just show you what that means. So what a Pareto chart looks like is it's a bar chart, and the various factors that contribute to an overall effect, and as I say, it'll be easier once you see examples in a minute, that are arranged in order from the largest to the smallest contribution to the effect. So that helps you to identify what we call the vital few and the useful many. And what we mean by that is the vital few are the factors that have the largest contribution to the effect and therefore warrant the most attention. So if you've got lots of change ideas and lots of things you think will contribute to achieving your aim, you want to look for what are the vital few, what are the things that you should focus your efforts on first. The useful many are that they're useful to know about, but they'll have a relatively smaller contribution to the effect. So it really just helps you focus on those improvement efforts with the greatest impact. So the person that came up with this concept, Vilfredo Pareto, used an example of Noah's Ark and said that if you were Noah and your ark was about to sink, then you should look for the elephants because you could throw over lots of small animals, cats, dogs, squirrels, and your ark will still keep sinking. But if you can find one elephant to get overboard, you're in much greater shape. And I think that's quite a good way to just think about these things. You're looking for the elephants in your improvement project to have the biggest impact with the smallest amount of effort. So, an example of a Pareto chart. Now, do not worry when you see there's loads of writing there. You do not need to read the writing on this. This is just to show you what it looks like when completed using Excel. So this was a team in NHS Lothian, and they were wanting to look at which of their services had the greatest non-attendance. So the writing that you see along the bottom is all of the teams that have referrals, and on the other axis is the number of service users that did not attend. And what happens is you can see that ranked in order from the largest to the smallest all the way along. The red line that goes from the bottom to the top is a cumulative percentage, and what you can work out from that is this is the 80-20 rule. So the circle round about it is where you're looking at the factors, or in this case the services, that contribute 80% of the non-attendance in this case. Okay, but another example which hopefully should help, this is a bit less information in it. It's another project that was looking at non-attendance, but in this case what they wanted to do was, and I know a few of you are looking at this non-attendance and why people are not attending, you want to focus your efforts on why is it that people are not attending, so you need to find that out first. So this service asked people that hadn't attended information about that so that they were able to rank the most common reasons for non-attendance. So you might not be able to read it in great detail, but the first three bars there in that chart is, the first one is physical health, the second one is pain, and the third one is relying on carers or family members. Now this was in a pain management service, so the reasons why people were not coming was because they were in pain or because they had issues with their physical health. And the reason why that's important and really helped this team is because, for example, the fourth bar along is forgetting about appointment. And if you think about a lot of work that's done around DNAs and missed appointments, where the obvious thing to look at might be reminding people about their appointments and doing work around setting up systems to remind people about their appointments. But that in this case would be a squirrel or a small animal, because it will help to the overall effect, but you'll get a much bigger impact if you focus on how do we help the people that can't attend because of their physical health or their pain. So these are the elephants in this case, and these are the areas you would focus your initial improvement efforts on. So I'll pause for breath for a minute, and just, has anybody got any questions? I mean, just please put questions in as you go, but is there any questions about Pareto specifically before we move on? Okay, I mean, we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end, so if something comes to you, then please do let us know. And I'm just going to pass over now to Kirsty for the next tool that we're talking about, which is cause and effect.
Thanks, Marie. So you can see the rest of the topics that we're going to cover. We're going to look at cause and effect now. Marie, I don't think I've got the ball yet.
Sorry, Olivia's just doing it just now.
All right, okay, sorry, bear with us. So I'm going to take you through the rest. We're going to use again the pie that we had for Pareto's just to gauge your experience of using cause and effect diagrams. These are also called Ishikawa diagrams, so I don't know if that makes any difference to your remembering if you've used them or not. So again, if you can use the pointer on the left-hand side, just pop your arrow into the pie and let us know what your experience is. That's great. Okay, so similar to the last time, folk have either never heard of them or you've used them and have got a basic understanding. Kerry, great, you know how to use them and you understand how they work. That's great, thank you. Okay, can I have next slide please?
Yeah.
Okay, so the purpose of using a cause and effect diagram, it helps you and your team to explore what are the causes contributing to the certain effect or outcome that you're observing. It shows the relationship of the causes to the effect and to each other, and it helps teams to identify areas for improvement. Causes are grouped under categories, as you can see: materials, methods, equipment, environment and people. And it's usually those 5 topics that are used to construct the cause and effect diagram.
Yep.
Okay, so, Medulla, you're not an environmental cause, surely. So the way this is taken from the IHI whiteboard resources that are available, and we'll be sending you links for that. So you can see this is one that's been set up around about long test result times. So the team were trying to understand why it was taking so long to get results back from the labs. They've used the 5 topics, as you can see, and under each of the topics, so under environment, you can see that they've identified rather than just saying the environment's a problem, they've then started to think about what it is about the environment that is causing them a problem and contributing to the long-term the long test result times. And you just progress through each of these 5 topics and begin to build up a picture of what is contributing to your problem. There's no hierarchy to the way these things are put against each of the fishbones. That's another name for these cause and effect, Ishikawa, or a fishbone, because it looks like a fish when you're finished with it. You just pop everything down underneath each of the topics until you've got a really good understanding of what is going on and contributing to your problem. So this isn't one of the tools that we've used very often, but we have used it with some of the teams over the life of the programme. You can see here we've done a fishbone diagram with one of the teams to help them to understand what was causing their problem. It's normal in the box on the right hand side that you normally have one sort of thing that you're trying to address. So this fishbone diagram is quite unusual in the fact that there are multiple post-its in that end box. But then the team have gone on to put other post-its round about it, and we're not expecting you to be able to read it. It's just to let you see what it can potentially look like. This is just a piece of brown paper and different coloured post-its. And I'm guessing that the different coloured post-its are coding, so the pink ones on the fishbone relate to the pink boxes within the box on the right-hand side. So that's one way to be able to use a fishbone diagram. Okay, before I move on to prioritisation matrix, that's easy to say if your teeth aren't falling out. Does anybody have any questions or hints and tips about cause and effect diagrams? Okay, if there's anything occurs to you, just pop the questions into the boxes as we're moving on. So, prioritisation matrix. So again, can you just give me a wee indication with your arrows of whereabouts you sit in the pie, please? Okay, this is great. It's good to see that that we're giving you new knowledge and that we're not teaching you to suck eggs. So this is good. Okay, so that's great. Thank you. Can I move on, Olivia? Do you need to do something before I move on? No. Okay, so I'll move on to the slide. So prioritisation matrix is really, it's the qualitative data equivalent of a Pareto chart. So what you do is you have a cross, you can do it on a piece of paper, brown paper, whatever, you break it into 4 quadrants, as you can see. I will not go through them all because you're perfectly capable of reading. But you just, as a team, you just identify the things that you think will help you to get to whatever you're wanting to improve. So this is better info for patients and relatives that this team have been working on, and they've got different ideas of what might help them to get to their improvement. And it allows you, so let's say for argument's sake this piece of paper was completely filled, by using the prioritisation matrix you would then look at the box on the top right, so what's got high benefit and high effort. What are you going to have to put a lot of work into but will get you a good outcome? And the other one that you want to look at is the high benefit, low effort, because those are the ones that are going to get you the biggest bang for your buck in the quickest time. And then the things that are low benefit, low effort, they would probably be the things that you would look at last, but this team didn't have anything in that box. Has anybody got any questions about this tool? Okay, I'll move on then. So last but not least, are we okay for time?
Yep.
So last but not least, this is one of our tools that we've used a lot. I don't think there's any team that we've come out and met with that we haven't used this with yet. So it's a really quick overview. Again, our PI, can you just indicate what your experience is of using process mapping? Yep, I thought there would be a bit more experience. Okay. That's great, a bit more wide experience, so we'll be able to, we know who to go to next time to get them to do this session. That's great. So, essentially a process map is also called a flow chart. It's a visual representation of the sequence of the steps that you have within your process. I'm not going to read that whole slide out. The way we've used it when we've been out with teams is we've got you as a team to construct your process map, what it looks like, and to help us to ask questions about what your process looks like. It's a really inexpensive way of bringing a team together and helping everybody to understand what process you have either got reliable or, more often than not reliable. Sometimes when you do it properly, for the want of a better expression, these symbols are used to indicate different activities or different steps within the process map. You don't have to use these, but if you get somebody coming in who's done project management or the Prince 2 training, the chances are that they might use these symbols. So it's just to give you an idea of what those may look like, but they're not essential. So this is just one example of process map that's been used. You can see this team have put a big long piece of wallpaper or paper against the wall, and they've just gotten out lots of different post-its and started to map out what they do as a process. I'm presuming that along the bottom towards the end, this isn't one I've been involved in, along the bottom towards the end on the right hand side, it looks like they've got documents as well, so that's a good idea that if you've got policies and procedures that support the work that you're doing, if you can align them with what you're doing as well, that lets you to understand why things may be the way they are. The other thing that we would really encourage you to do when you're doing process mapping is to make sure that you've got your voice of your customer in the room, because what you as a practitioner see happens may not be how it feels for the service user or their families when they're moving through your services. Okay, just before I hand back over to Marie, does anybody have any questions about process mapping? Nope. Okay, if there's anything that occurs to you, please do just, sorry, I'm multitasking here, can't talk and move the slider at the same time. If there's anything occurs to you as we progress through, please do just pop questions into the chat box. And Marie, you've got the ball.
Great, thank you. So, as with all of these WebExes, that was a very quick run through. We do pack quite a lot in, and we've talked about 4 different tools there in a short space of time. So hopefully it wasn't too overwhelming, but also hope that from that you've got the idea that all of these tools are quite straightforward to use. They can all be done with pieces of paper, post-it notes. You don't need any expensive equipment or fancy things to do that with. You can just get started like that. Even the Pareto charts that were done on an Excel spreadsheet, you can do those without that. You can do that with pen and paper. The toolkits that we will be sending you out have a page for each of these tools, and they do take you through literally step by step how you would do them. So they are quite straightforward to use, but if you do use any of these, or you're thinking that they might be helpful, it would be really useful just to hear how you get on with them, or if you want some more guidance on them, please do get in touch and we can take you through a bit more about how you might do that. So as I say, just do get in touch with us if you think they'll be helpful. So next steps for the collaborative. So project update reports we'll start with. So these are the reports that we ask you to submit to us every month. We've made it the same date every month to make that straightforward, the 15th of every month. And so far we've had 2 rounds of these, August and September. And I'd just like to say a huge thanks to the teams who have submitted these, because as a team we have found this hugely beneficial to let us see where your project is and provide you with some advice if required. Without having those reports, we're a bit in the dark as to what's going on. We don't really have a way of knowing how to best way to support you in between the events that we're running. So we would really encourage you to submit these every month to us. We'd like to say that it shouldn't take too long. Your first one probably will, because you need to put all your project details in, but it's really just a very brief summary of what you've been working on that month and your plans for the next month, just so that we can see where you're at and anything that we think we can support you with. We do, as a team here, set time aside after the 15th to go through these and send you back some feedback, but some of the reports have been coming in over the next week or 2 after that, so it just makes it difficult for us to get it out to you timely, because we've not always got the time allocated. So it would be a big help if you could get them in by the 15th. And even if there's really not much that you've been working on since the last month, if there's been various reasons why things have stalled a bit, just send it in and let us know what's happening or what you're at, then we can get back to you with that. Driver diagrams. Now we've talked about these today and how important they can be at this stage in your project. I noticed in the chat box that Karen Livingston, you'd mentioned about that you'd simplified your driver diagram from what you'd started with all the ideas on it. So I was just to say that's great that you've done that, and the important thing about a driver diagram is that it needs to make sense to you and your team. So if you feel that what's on it is too much or too complicated or doesn't make sense as a theory on one page, then do change it. You can continue to work on changing your driver diagram throughout your project, so don't feel that you've got to get it absolutely pinned down and it can't change, but please send us in what you have, whatever draft stage it's in, so that we can do that. What else? Registering for the learning session. Yes. Our next learning session, you will have had information out. We've got some people registered, but the sooner people register, the better we can plan for that. So we'll be sending you more information out, and we'd encourage you to register as soon as possible for that. It's going to be in Edinburgh this time, and we're going to be doing quite a lot of teamwork, working in your teams, working on your projects. So it would be great if you have at least 2 from the team, because I know people who came themselves, it can be difficult to make progress when you've no one to bounce your ideas off. So looking forward to seeing you at that. Team details for Moodle. Now we'll explain about Moodle in a minute. Olivia's going to go through that with you, but I know she's been sending out emails asking you to send in your team details. So if you haven't already done that, it would be a great help if you could do that as soon as possible. Okay. Now, when we set up the collaborative, we set up what we were calling virtual quality improvement clinics the last Thursday of every month. So these are times that we have set aside in our diaries to be available for you to book a slot to call us about your project. So they are still there in our diaries, and actually one is due today, so I don't think we've got anybody booked in, but if you do want a last minute request for that, please let us know after the call. But in addition to that, based on feedback from the teams, we have started doing calls with individual teams, And we personally have found these really helpful to find out where your project's at and giving you some advice, sending resources to help you move along with your project. I know that, so again, Karen, I'm just going to call out there that you've put in the chat box that following the call that it prompted you to go and work on your driver diagram. So, and I know other people have said that they found it helpful, have sent in more updates based on what we've talked about. So we would really encourage you to take up those invites for the calls. What you will do is you will get out information from us with a diary request asking you to come on the call. The ideal scenario would be that the team would be there, so you can all do it together. You can all dial into the same number on those calls. We will be there. There's usually 2 of us available. Usually we'll have an improvement advisor and a clinical lead. We allocate 30 minutes for the calls, but if you only have a really quick question, if you just want to 5 minutes, or you can only allocate 10 minutes or whatever, that's absolutely fine as well. So don't feel that you have to take up all of that time, but it would be great to have a chance to speak to you. Also, we have said to all of the teams that we've spoken to so far, please don't wait for us to invite you to those calls. If you want help or advice at any point, just call us or email us, and we'll try and slot something in out with those times. If any of you are working on parts of your project that you think it would be helpful for us to be physically there with you, if you've got project team meetings, or you're going to be using one of these tools, or you would like us to come along and just again speak to you about your project, give you some advice or share some information with you, then please let us know and we'll do our best to accommodate that as well.